Welcome to another episode of Jewfish. Dave here. Let's get some. I'm out in the river late this afternoon, live baiting for jewfish. Hope I can sting a few jew. I went out this afternoon to fill up my live bait tank with liveys, and it was fairly nautical outside, blowing about 25 knots flat out from the northeast. Yeah, she was pretty wet and wild, but the water's really warm, so it wasn't too bad. The reason why I got away with it today was there's no swell today. Like, it's just like, really, it's a 0.5 metre swell. And the tide, I timed it so the tide, it just turned, it was just running in. And so I was able to fish at the tinny in easy 25 knots nor'easter and on my own and catch a heap of live bait. Took a fair few waves over the front, over the side, a few over the side, and a few over the back. But yeah, it was an incredible afternoon to see this afternoon. It was really windy, but there was just so much life there. It was amazing. Like, there was that much yellowtail there, and there's so much bonito out there, and pelagic fish, that what happened is that they pushed the yellowtail right up onto the surface, and the yellowtail were just big heaps right on the top, just freaking out, right on the big tide line. And the bonito and, you know, like tuna and that were underneath them, just sort of like smashing them. Bait just rippling on the tide line, right on the surface. Unbelievable. And there were big dolphins and that swimming around out there feeding, and there were heaps of live bait that I caught, and there was sort of like bait all over the sounder. But yeah, it's an incredible thing to see, you know, so much life out there in that really strong wind and that warm current this time of the year. The big problem that I had today on the bait jig was there's so many small, just bonito out there like this big. Damn! Let's hit a bonito or something. Give me bait jig. I need that. Come on, mate. Yeah, little tiny bonito. Man, they'll mess up your like, you know, like bait jig. And they were just jumping all over my bait jig, and they're just a real pain when you're trying to get yellowtail and slimies. You know, they were just roaring off on my light rod, and they'll tangle your bait jigs up. But geez, there was some bonito out there. I didn't save any bonito for bait because, you know, they take a lot of oxygen, and you just can't keep them alive in your live bait tank, you know, like with all the other yellowtail. And when I'm jewfishing, I like to use live baits. If I had squid, fresh caught squid in Lake Macquarie I had, that I'd caught, washed, you know, and frozen, maybe I'd put one of those out on the rod, but I really like to use live yellowtail or live slimies. So it's a fairly big tide today. It's like a 1.7 metre tide. I've been fishing smaller tides up here, you know, like 1.2s and 1.3s, but it's a 1.7. So I'll see how I go on the 1.7. The wind's finally, it's still blowing a little bit, probably easy, sort of like 12 knots I suppose, but it's backed off enough where the boat is actually laying really good on the anchor, and yeah, I'll see whether I catch any dew, and the tide's running really hard. All the dew will come on when it gets darker. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you'll smash fish in the daytime, no problems. Sometimes they just want it to get dark, and they'll come on the bite. But anyway, I'll see what happens. I think the top of the tide's around about, or maybe about 11 o'clock tonight. So I'm going to fish up to around about 11, and Brandon, I'm going to go and pick up Brandon really late. And me and Brandon might fish the run-out tide about 2:30 in the morning, and just put in a big session, because I think it's going to turn around maybe to the south tomorrow. We're going to get a little bit of weather. So I'm going to put in a big one today, fish the top of the tide, maybe pick up Brandon, fish till about 2:30, see if I can sting a few jewfish. Nothing yet. I've had a couple of runs. on my overhead reel where small Jew will grab the bait and just stripped off, you know, like 3 or 4 seconds of line and just drop them. But oh, small Jew, you know, grabbing your baits. Oh, still there. Got something on the circle hook. Could be a flathead. Just back the drag off a bit on my reel. Oh no, it's a Jewfish. Must be just because the tide's running so hard, and he was down really, really deep, and he didn't actually hit me that hard. Anyway, that's the first fish for the day. It's a 73 centimetre Jew. Yeah, like pretty subtle strike on the live bait, that Jewfish. Normally they hit you really, really hard, but he didn't hit me that hard. But I thought he was a big floody. But anyway, that's the first one. Let's get him back. Okay, what I've done is I've just actually pulled the anchor, and I've actually just re-anchored the boat. So tonight it's a 1.7 metre tide, which is a decent tide, not a huge tide, but it's a decent tide. And what happens up here is that even a 1.7 metre tide is absolutely like just running really, really, really hard. So when the tide's running really, really hard, what will happen is you'll have some problems with, if you've got 4 rods out or 3 rods out, what will happen is, it'll begin to compress your spread. It'll start to bring them sinkers in closer and closer together. And sometimes your lines can tangle up. And what happens in a really, like a big heavy, really hard tide, your rigs are more prone to sort of like tangling, particularly for yellowtail guys, they'll spin. And so what I've done is that the pelicans are actually over to the side, out of the main current. And the pelicans are the best hunters of all. So what I generally try to do is sort of follow the pelicans around a little bit. So what I've done, I've re-anchored, I've come a little bit out of the main flow. I've got over to the edge, a little bit to the side, where it's not running as hard, where the pelicans are, and I've cut back to 3 rods rather than 4, and I'll just see what happens here, because I fished for about I've got 1 Jew 73, so I was running really hard when I got him, but just gone really, really mega quiet for the last 2 hours. Not even a touch, not even any small Jew. like hitting my baits. I think maybe when the tide's running really hard, it might even be too strong for the smaller Jew. Like when you're on those 1.2, 1.3 metre tides, even a 1.4 metre tide, the little Jews seem to be around everywhere. They seem to be strong enough to swim around up and down, and it doesn't worry them. But tonight it's running really hard, and even the smaller Jew I've noticed have kind of gone off. They must be tucked in out of the tide. Probably the metre Jew and that, you know, they're stronger, they'd be swimming around. It doesn't affect them as much, but my strategy is to get sideways, get out of that main current, get over where the pelicans are, and see if the Jew are actually, if they're active, and just sitting over out of the main current on that eddy line there. And anyway, I'll see what happens. One Jew so far, I need more than that. Yeah, one of the best things that I bought for the boat was a jet boil. So they're fantastic, you know, like just brew up a big coffee, keeps you going when you're Jew fishing. So yeah, this will get my wings on for sure. When you're live baiting for Jew, what happens is you have all different sorts of sessions. Some sessions you have when you're live baiting, the action's coming, you know, thick and fast, and there's quite a few fish around and you're catching a lot of fish. You know, they're always really fun sessions. Sometimes when you're Jew fishing as well, what happens is that there's lots of sort of like bycatch around, like there's lots of bream, there's lots of different things, small Jew and that, and what they're doing is they're really hard on your live bait. So some sessions you're constantly really busy just rebaiting and just checking those baits. And then some sessions like this one is where I've caught one Jew and the tide's running pretty hard, but it's pretty quiet. So what you got to do on sessions like this is, like you've just got to actually be really patient, and you've just got to persevere, and you've just got to stick at it. And generally what happens when you do that, if you stick at it, you'll sting a fish. And if you do persevere and you do stick at it, usually what will happen in a session is sometime during the tide you'll sting a fish or two. And some of the biggest fish I've caught have been where it's been really, really, really quiet, and then just out of the blue, oof, just a big dog's hit me. So I'm just going to persevere, hang in there. It's probably about 2 hours before the top of the tide. So I'm just hoping on this session when the tide slows down, about an hour before the top of the tide, or maybe even on the tide change, that I might sting a fish or two. But yeah, when you're Jew fishing, don't give up. Just keep going, keep going. Yeah, eventually it'll happen. Let's get some coffee into me, get my wings on, get me motivated. Not sure whether Brandon's going to come out tonight or not. I know, he's a bit of a night owl, probably. Oh, got a pretty big yellowtail out on that rod, and it just sort of bounced and just be rod load up, and let go of it. Small Jew, I'd say. Damn those small Jew. Grab your baits, just pull on them. Their eyes are too big for their belly. I guess the small Jew are just practicing their hunting skills. Trying to tackle a bigger yellowtail. They're not having much success. Well, I'm just about on the top of the tide. I've had no joy. I'm going to give it 15 more minutes and then just reassess. Come on. Oh, finally there's a it was around that other rod. Not too bad a fish. Probably a metre fish. It's one I've been looking for. Tell you what, mate, I fished hard for that fish. That fish was an absolute animal, mate. He fought really hard for his size. That is just a tank of an 80, so an 80 centimetre Jew. So yeah, hit me, slammed me really hard on that spinning outfit. And what happened is, they're just silent, man, but I saw the water fly off the mono as he took off. So yeah, really heavy fish. So I'll get this fish back. That's what happens, you know, when you persevere, right on the top of the tide. So I persevered and I persevered and I persevered, and I've been rewarded with the Jew. Anyway, gonna let this fish go. Well, look who showed up at like midnight. Brandon, how you going, mate?
Yeah, doing all right.
What have you been doing?
Oh, it's been a busy week, yeah.
You been riding around your bike tonight?
Yeah, riding on my motorbike and looking for jobs and
oh, okay.
Fun stuff.
Oh, there's a fish, Brandon. Get on that fish, mate. Oh, you would not believe it.
Come back.
Oh, I was just looking at Brandon. I just looked up and I saw that rod just bend over.
Yeah, there's something there. Give it a sec. Yeah.
Got a fish?
I think so. Oh, he might have dropped it. He's definitely pulling though.
Smaller Jew. Yeah, what I found up here is it's quite amazing, really. Like sometimes the Jew up here, they'll kind of hit you, and then they'll pull line and they'll drop it, and then you hang onto the rod, and then amazing what they'll actually come back, and they'll actually hit you again. The first fish I caught this afternoon, he bent the rod over, dropped it. I picked the rod up, was holding the rod, and I felt him come back and went smash. Like so, doesn't look like that one's going to come back, but.
And the other night we were out here, one came back to it, what, 3 or 4 times in a row.
Yeah, they will come back. Oh man, Brent, another solid strike. These rods, these reels are silent. Bro. Around that old rock and rod. Ooh, that's the way it goes. Drop him in, drop him in. There's that bob. This fish is wrapped up in a fishing line. Man, what a mess. It's another fish, probably about 60, something like that. Okay, that's a wrap for Ozfish. It's been another long session. Definitely putting in the hours, you know, on my Jewfishing. I went out about 3 o'clock today and blown a gale outside, like about 25 knots from the northeast. But luckily there was no swell, so it was doable in the tinny. Incredible afternoon outside. There was just, you know, so many bonito. There were yellowtail on the surface. There were just tuna working them. There were dolphins working. Incredible the amount of life out there. But caught a heap of liveys and came up, fished the run-in tide, and bigger tide today, a 1.7 metre tide, and I got one fish, a 73, and then I fished right up to the top of the tide, and I managed to sting an 80 right on the top of the tide, and then I ducked down the river late, picked up Brandon, probably about 11:30, and we motored back up the river there and dropped the anchor on the run-out tide, and within 10 minutes, yeah, we had action immediately, and we ended up catching 2 Jew around about the 60 centimetre mark. And yeah, that's all we've caught. Like, well, I'm not complaining really. We've caught 4 Jews, 73 and 80, a couple of 60s. It's been a, you know, a long, pretty tough session. That's the way it goes. Sometimes you have sessions and you get lots and lots of activity. You know, you get good numbers of fish. You know, sometimes a little bit tougher. And I'm not sure whether there's some sort of connection with the bigger tides, you know, where I'm fishing them. maybe the fish are just tucked in and they're not as active. But anyway, yeah, this is Dave and Brandon, mate, signing off. Until next time, always remember, let's get some.